Are we live, boys?
Yeah, we're live, but Ragz has muted himself.
Sorry, I've muted myself, stupid burger.
Yes, you muted yourself. That's a good start.
I see we have Sensum and everybody in the chat. 42's in there, Pick Jazz. There's a few names I didn't recognise there, so they must be your followers, Gavin.
We've got love from County Down there. I'm in County Down, so love back to you, Sharon.
Sharon's a legend. Sharon is a legend. She's on my chat there on Offgridireland on Telegram.
What we'll do is I'll just do the intro as we usually do. If you want to support the channel, you can. The mods know the links in the description there. Really don't care if you contribute or not, because Raymond Piper's probably my biggest contributor. Lovely man. Tonight, guys, we have Gavin from Offgridireland. I've been following these guys now for, it must be 3 months maybe. And in their live chats and all, you can go in there and you can have a talk with everybody. That's how I got talking to a lady called Melissa O'Neill. I'm trying to get her on the channel, but she is in election mode at the minute. They're in Canvas in Limerick this evening or something. And I've asked Gavin to come on because he is a very interesting guy, and his channel has got a lot of credence. He's had guests such as Godfrey Bloom,
Man like Morgoth,
Big Sam, whole pile of different ones. So without further ado, I don't know why I say that. There's Joe saying hello to you. So Gavin, welcome.
Well, thanks a million for having me on. That's hilarious. You just said I didn't mean to say that. That's we're kicking it off at a good start. No, thanks a million for having me on. I've had some good guests on. I've had Godfrey Bloom there during the week. I had Rick Munn. We've had Sven Longshanks and Clive there from Scotland. We've had Sam Mealy and Mark Collette. And with E. Michael Jones, like we've had a range of different guys and different alternative fellas. We've had a satirical soldier from down south. We've had Justin Barrett. We've had Herman Kelly. We've had.
I think you've had that guy just popped on the screen the Woodlander on before, haven't you?
The Woodlander, absolute legend and a gentleman, absolutely. Yeah. And I think he grounds us all every so often because he's saying the things that we need to hear. 100%.
Absolutely, his videos are brilliant. I share them with everyone. There's Joe Marsh. Hello, Marshy. How you doing, buddy?
There's Joe, another legend. 100%.
Yeah. I've been.
Get on.
Oh yeah, Sensum. There's another cracking guy. Got a good little crew here. So Offgrid, Gavin. I've been following you for about the same amount of time, 3-4 months, and I remember saying to Ragz, because we talk to each other on WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever. I'm like, you heard of this guy Offgridireland and that, and I kind of assumed with the name Offgrid you were a bit like a Woodlander, like the Irish Woodlander. Now I'm not too sure if that's the case or not. Where does the name Offgrid come from? Is it where you want to be, or is it how you're living at the moment?
Well, no, I suppose. Well, then I'll just give you a brief background. Like, I'm 36 years of age. I suppose I was living my life. I have 4 kids. I have now different mothers for them. I've been through the mill kind of in my life and this, that, and the other. But what really grounded me, and I actually should say that in my earlier life, I was brought up very conservative Christian, the way my family were, and I kind of left that maybe as a young teenager. But it's kind of something that is always in the back of my mind, that Christian faith. But I will say this, that the pandemic really rocked it for me, because I was actually living a really bad life at the time. I was off the rails. I was involved in illegal activity. My life had gone out of control, and it was something, these lockdowns, everything else, it kind of shook me, because I've been, you know what I mean? It was kind of, my life had went off the track by the time I've been in a long-term relationship, and that broke up. I have a son, he's 14. And trying to get over that relationship, I kind of slipped off. I'd lost my job, and I've been, just kind of hit rock bottom in a way. But with these lockdowns, look, these things happened, But during the lockdowns, the whole thing, it kind of shook me. What I was doing and everything else. I couldn't play an Xbox. I couldn't watch a film. It was like this is some kind of, attack that we're under. And most people didn't get it. And so it was kind of from there I was fully into the activism. I was running like different channels here. I was banned off Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, the whole lot, for sharing stuff about, you know, like Maddie DeGarry, the little girl who had whatever, and actually could run YouTube. I actually don't want to go down to that. But anyway, we had been, you know, censored and all that, and I was at the front of that, and I'd run the voice chats and stuff on Telegram for a long time. And we were all kind of building a community there, and we're kind of trying to get through it. Like at one stage we thought we were going to be brought to gulags during the height of the madness that went on here. And then very quickly it flipped then to the yellow and blue flags, and everyone was changing their Facebook profiles to that. And one psyop rolled into another, and that's pretty much it. But I've been, since then, like my life's changed completely. Like I've found my faith again with God and Christianity, completely changed my life around. And I've been on the front of the activism and running those telegrams for about 4 years. Do you know what I mean? But on the front of the activism during the lockdowns. And from then I realized during that thing that nationalism is the only answer to the globalism. We need to go back, you know what I mean, to the traditions and back. We need to, you know, build our tribes, and, you know, grassroots activism is the only way we're going to get out of this, because, you know, so that was just, sorry, a brief summary of where I'm at.
No, it's brilliant. And the analogy you made there between globalism and nationalism, a good pal of ours, Charlie Big Potatoes, he's not doing too good. Well, he's okay, but he's not around at the moment. But I remember listening to him do a talk once, and he was like, "You're either a globalist or a nationalist. Those are your two options." And that it did hit home. You know, it's you're one or the other. You can't be sort of in between, right? But going back to the beginning, you see, you're only 36. I would have thought you were more my age, sort of like just the other side of 40. From listening to your talk, you sound, you know, you're very well spoken and
ways beyond your years.
Yeah. So 36 years and 4 kids, and you had
I've been through. I had the run of the mill in my life. Do you know what I mean? From I could go into it like I had a single mother. I still to this day don't really know who my father is. You know, between two people, I was brought up very conservative Christian. Half my family were Jehovah's Witnesses. The other half were all devout Catholics from a small town in the Midlands. Do you know what I mean? So, and my second name is not very Irish, and it's a strange second name. I won't dox myself out. I can be found,
dox yourself, mate.
But it's there. You know what I mean? And it's so I think where my family on the side that I know of came to the Midlands was they came in to build the canals and stuff. They were Catholic, maybe from England, but on the one side of the family, obviously I'm missing half of my family lineage. But I think that's where my second name came from. Anyway, back in the 1500s, maybe whenever 1816 or whatever they come in to build in the canals up through the Midlands. But yeah, so that's pretty that. Like I'm an open person. I've nothing to hide. You know what I mean? I've been doxed in that in my Telegram and that. You know what I mean? So we're all, you know, as soon as you speak out and you stick your neck out, you're public enemy number one. Do you know what I mean? So
well, they say when you know when you're over the target, that's when you're gonna get the most flack, right? It's quite a true statement, that is.
If you look at Odin's Men just calls out the actual complete stupidity of all this stuff on what's it called, TikTok, and he calls out all these different, you know, trans woman this and trans women are better than real women and stuff like this here, and he just talks about it. They demonetized him. He's now on. I sent you a link to his. What is it now? He's on
Rumble.
And he just gives them hell. He just lights on them, and they have some blinds. It's unbelievable. I see we have white field marshals in.
Evening, Field Marshal.
But no, because I've been in the chats in the evenings and stuff, and it's all based stuff, Gavin.
But that leads me to be anti-abortion and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I'm pro-life. You know, I don't. You know, so there's a lot of things, and it touches home for me in different ways. You know, and I'm not here crying, oh, poor me, or anything like that. You know, I had a good family in the way, you know what I mean? Although the circumstance I came from could have been way worse. Half my family were very Christian, very, you know what I mean? And that only for them, I don't know what way I would have been. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not here crying and all that, you know what I mean? But, you know, that's the perspective. And, you know, I left all that 13 years of age and I kind of went my own way and I made my mistakes. I had a long-term relationship to kids and, you know, you come out the other side, you know, you're on a journey and, you know, we're at a stage now where, you know, if you care about the future, you care about your kids and all that, it's time for the good people to come together. And I think, you know, we need to scalp the top. And I don't mean physically or violently. I mean, you know, we need to overthrow the money changers there and the lads that have sold us out holistically across Europe, I think. But for me, I care more about Ireland and, you know, even in England as well. You know what I mean? What matters is our own, you know?
There's a question from another YouTuber, 42, he's another great YouTuber, and he talks about history and heritage and all our different traditions and bits and pieces, and he says, what is the position on the border and the protocol? Or if you have any opinion on it or anything. Hello?
Sorry, did you ask me the question?
42 is asking you a question. We can fire my audience, followers now. They can fire questions in and put them up to the guests.
Oh, good stuff. Is he asking me what is his position on the border and the protocol? So that's the hard question for me, right? And this is the truth. I think it's all nonsense, right? Because at the moment, I feel like that our government has been. It's like a coup d'etat that's happened. Like they're not working in democracy now is a veneer, and they're not working in our interest. And they are doing a bit of a Pied Piper job there because they have RT and they have all the mainstream. You have to remember when they tried to pull the shit with the swine flu, it didn't fly because ITV and different journalists came out and they called it out and the whole thing fell apart. Well, this time, the reason what happened with the last shenanigans, I won't go too, you know, phrasing it all, but what happened with over the last 3 years, the reason it wasn't exposed is because all the media has been captured because they're no longer viable. Because we're all on the internet and we're all getting our news from different sources, and these are the legacy media, and they are literally being propped up by all the government advertising, and they do that for the Road Safety Authority, for the Health Service Executive, they have it for the education, for the farmers. They have an apparatus now, so it's nearly like an NGO media class that they wouldn't be viable only for all the advertisements they're getting from the government, and they're manipulating the people, and they have a Pied Piper of Hamlet thing going on. But what I would say about the North for me is that I think it's a farce to be fighting. Like, why would the Republicans in the North want to be a part of this shit show in Leinster House? And why would the Unionists in the North want to be a part of this shit show in Westminster? The good people right across the world, the nationalists, need to rise up in America and in Ireland and in Europe, and we need to get overthrow the money changers, overthrow these. Like, you know what I mean? We've been usurped. The government are not working in our best interest. That's obvious. It's been apparent. And when we do that, we can all, you know, sort out what we're going to do with borders and all this. I think it's nonsense to want to be a unionist when you're not that nonsense to be a unionist because that's your history, that's your national identity and all that. But I mean, with what's in Westminster, the same as why would any Republican in the North want to be part of what's in Leinster House? We have a bigger problem than that now that transcends that nonsense. That's what I honestly believe. I don't know how we fix it all after that, but like we bigger fish to fry is what I'm trying to say.
Like you have a dandy Gandhi in the Dáil, you have a dandy Gandhi in Westminster, and apparently your man in Scotland is running.
Humza Yousaf,
Humza Yousaf, because everybody in Scotland apparently is too white, you know, especially in a white nation. He's now running for leader, First Minister. So if he wins, that'll be 3. You know, the only ones that won't have it is Wales and.
Oh, they won't be too far behind. They want to keep up with the Joneses, won't they?
Joneses. That pun?
Yeah, well, I didn't mean that, but yeah, you know, there's a pun. But Gavin, I keep going to call you Offgrid, but Gavin, what do you feel then? Like, you know, 800 years roughly of history of British oppression, whatever, Brits out, home rule, fighting for all that, the Republic and everything. For the Republic to then just open its doors to the rest of the world, even though it can't really cater and look after its own citizens. What do you think about that sort of quandary?
Well, it's a damn shame because we're all, like, as I said, with my background and whatever else, what a lot of Irish people don't know is a lot of our cultural identity was manufactured when they created the GAA and when they had this big national organic push. Now, I'm not saying that this big nationalist propaganda push, when I'm not sure, I can't throw you out the dates and all that, but I have documents that coming from the proper universities and whatever else that have proper cited papers. They ran campaigns, like they created the GAA, they created different things. You know, they established, say, the speaking of Irish in the national schools and all these things. Like, we had lost a lot of our cultural identity, and it was repackaged for us out of, you know, out of whatever they decided to. But they left out an awful lot of stuff. They left out stuff that's in the Book of Leinster and all these different, the Book of Invasions and all these different things that were just completely left out that you would never hear about in school, or the Hill of Tara and it being Teeth Heppy, or all these different alternative histories. You never hear nothing. They gave this pre-packaged Cú Chulainn and different stuff. And I'm not saying, I'm not dissing that. That's, you know, that's part of Irish history and the salmon knowledge and all this kind of stuff. But they left out an awful lot of stuff there. And they repackaged it, they created the GAA, and they done all of that. And when I look back into the history, there's a lot of stuff there in Ireland. Like, when Ireland was first colonised, say, by the British, or whatever way you want to term it, a lot of them were Catholic that came in first. So when the kind of break up between Rome and, you know, the, what would you call it, the, you know, the kingship, or the, you know, the whatever in the UK, the monarchy, there was still a lot of Catholics in Ireland.
Reformation.
Yeah, but there was British Catholics in Ireland who didn't want to be a Protestant. Now, I'm not going into all this because I don't care. It doesn't bother me in none the least. I'm not a denomination like that where I don't give a shit about religion. I believe in Christ and I have my own opinion. I read the Bible myself. I don't need anyone else to figure it out for me. Do you know what I mean? I've done my own research and that, and I have my own beliefs, and I think that's the way everyone should be. You know, it's, you know. But what I would say is that there was just, all I'm trying to say is that the guys who first came into Ireland were Catholic and they rebelled as well. So there was a groundswell of, that was something I never knew from in school. It's kind of alternative history that when we first were colonised, a lot of them were Catholic, and then there was kind of whatever happened in the UK happened, and a lot of the, say, what would you call them, planters or Christian, they were Catholic, and they're like, you know, they didn't like what was going on. But I just saw that dynamic, and that there's a lot of stuff that they don't cover in school, is basically all I'm trying to say. And I don't care about it one way or the other. I remember, did you ever see a lot of people got this 23andMe and all of these genetic things? I know there's, you know, quite some people with question marks over them, that, but I have seen some of them where people were shocked that, you know, they'd lived in Ireland and all their lives, and they've had a test and compared it with Americans, and Americans who never set foot in Ireland had more supposed Irish DNA on one of these tests than someone who's lived here all their lives. Do you know? So it's, yeah, we are the same peoples here, is basically what I'm trying to say. And our history has been manipulated when they wanted to re-establish Irish nationalism back a few hundred years ago, and they established the GAA and all that at that time period. But nonetheless, you know, we've more in common with ourselves. This is a bigger problem. This is an attack on the West, I like to say, without getting too, you know, putting a pigeonhole. Attack on the West is what's going on at the moment.
Who did the thing? Who did the thing that was last week? And it was a video on YouTube, and it's still up, so it hasn't been taken down. And he was doing the population of the world 100 years ago, and the white population of the planet 100 years ago was 30%. And latest records, I think it was Dangerfield covered it, and it's 7.8%. So from 30%, yeah. From 30% to 7.8. Yet they're all the minorities. You know, the poor minorities.
Well, naturally, it's funny because they've used a bit of Orwellian newspeak now, and they're known as the global majority.
Yes,
is how minorities are referred to now, as the global majority. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what.
We all go on so well now. I think we all need to transcend all of that nonsense. You know, Rangers versus Celtic. You know, we need to get, and I'm just using that as an example, or the, you know, the whole thing in the north there, what they call it, sectarianism, all that. We actually have bigger fish to fry. And I know all that there's a lot of pain on both sides. I'm not trying to minimize the catastrophes and the horrors that went on. But this is a fight bigger than ourselves. Why can't we all come together holistically and realize our leaders are not working for us? And we need a revival, a nationalist revival right across the West. If America got good people in and they could, do you know, imagine what it would change if, I don't know, I know it's fantastical because it's not on the table at the moment, but imagine just good people taking control. And that's what we need to work towards from the grassroots. And, you know, politically, activisty, non-violent is what I'm saying.
42's like me. He's a unionist. But I would call myself a British nationalist and an Ulster Unionist. So I wear two hats. That's just my opinion. We'll discuss that or not. But as you say, it doesn't matter if you're from the north or the south, or from Scotland, Wales, England, France, Germany, or whatever.
Can I ask you something, Ragnar, then on this, right? Because this is something that popped into my head earlier, and this is important, right? Yeah. I started when I started. Obviously, I told you the way I was distracted for years and whatever. But when you start drilling into some of these figures, like say the Green Party in the south has 5,000 registered members, or say Fine Gael has 15,000. I'm giving out rough figures, or say Fianna Fáil has 20,000 members. That's the total membership of their parties. Like that's things we can deal with. And what I've learned over time is that there's a handful of people that controls everything, right? And then they have the Pied Piper of Hamlet over all the gobshites and the normies because they have control of the media, they've control of RTE, they've control of the mainstream, they've control of the papers. Like I stated before, because of their legacy, and they wouldn't be economically viable only for the government advertising. They actually own them, lock, stock, and barrel, right? But it's still only a handful of people who run the show. So we shouldn't be feel defeated, though the majority don't agree with us. They don't matter because they are like cattle. They are like sheep. They just want to watch Netflix and whatever. But when a good group of good people, the real nationalists, rise up together, we like. There's no reason why it's not achievable for us to have the reset that we want, the nationalist reset across Ireland specifically. But also, Ragnar, I wanted to say to you is the way it's going here now, it's not looking good for Ulster Unionists, right? And I don't want to get pigeonholed in either way, right? But if it keeps going the way it's going, what will happen is you'll be dragged kicking and screaming into this fucking shit show that we have down here in Leinster House, right? But it doesn't mean that what's going on in Westminster is any better than the shit show that's going on in Leinster House. But if this keeps going the way it's going, I can see a trend. I can see the way they're talking. I can see the Sinn Féin will probably get into power next time. And they are, Brits out, every other Tom, Dick and Harry, groom your children in the schools, fucking nonsense in. And that's what Sinn Féin are. But they are on the cards to probably get elected next time. And we need to fucking stop that. And it's in the Ulster Unionists, it's in your interest to get involved in Southern politics, and in a big way. And I in a big way, in whichever way you decide is fit. You know what I mean? If you want to talk about the Prince and what Machiavelli and all this kind of stuff, you have to read what's going on here. This is going to happen, and I'm not gloating here saying that I don't give a shit. I couldn't give a fuck about the North. I think we're all been sold out to the globalism or to whatever. Is it American empire? Is it Anglo-Saxon empire? Is it whatever it is? You know what I mean? There's a problem that we're under, or the Zog, or whatever people want to throw a name on. We have to cut the head off the snake peacefully, politically, or mass non-compliance. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And we should all be just uniting under that banner. Right?
I'm just dropping a link into your channel. Are you still banned from YouTube?
I had Jerry Marzinski on, and Jerry, he was talking. I don't know if anyone. He was on Dellingpole, and it's creepy stuff. He's talking about, that what is it, that schizophrenia, and that could be these, fucking demonic entities, or it could be, there's different words from jinn if you're a Muslim or whatever, different words. And that one got pulled, and I was on a 10-day ban or whatever it was. And just as that 10-day ban was coming off, they took down the Golden Age Man. And he's actually a guy there from the UK or from Britain, and he's living in the US. He married a Southern girl, and he's a Christian, and he's literally living the dream over there. I think the Woodlander would love him because they're he's trying to get off grid, and he's his life. He's such a nice dude. But the reason that was pulled was because of the way can you say the election with Biden and all that? I questioned it, or we went too far with that topic. And I think that's what. And I was unaware of that being obviously I knew to be careful of kind of a medical thing, but anyway, that was the two of them. So yeah, I'm still on a 10-day ban, and I'm actually absolutely gutted because we're only grassroots. We don't have a whole lot of subscribers and that, and we've you know, our biggest subscriber count was on YouTube, and it's kind of a kick in the nuts. You know what I mean? It's hard. Like it's a hard graft, isn't it, to get up like from the bottom.
Yeah. Well, I was pleased actually, just to quickly say, Gavin, I was pleased to find you on Spotify actually, because not I don't think enough of our lot get onto Spotify, because it's just another platform. You never know who's out there and who's looking for what. So I was pleased to see you on that. I'll get all the notifications come up as well. So that was a good thing for you guys.
Yeah, I looked yesterday. You search like Offgridireland podcast into Google or into Brave browser or any of them, that seems to bring it up, because I'm trying, like, it's a kick in the nuts. We're only getting about, say, 1,000 downloads or listens across the different platforms. So say I'm on BitChute. I started getting on Rumble this week because of what happened with YouTube, and we're on the Spotify. But we were kind of getting about, on average, 1,000, say, downloads per stream. Now, some of them, like we had Thomas Sheridan on, he got 6,000 on the one episode. But I mean, in general, when we're just tipping away maybe 2 or 3 streams a week, we're getting on average, you know, maybe 1,000, which is growing, man. It's fantastic. We're only going a couple of months, and we've been putting out a lot of work really quickly. But yeah, I think we put too much effort into the YouTube, and you need to be on it, but they're really, man, I had Rick Munn on there from up the north there the other day, and he said just focus on the ones that are not censoring you. He said don't even bother with these others. And I kind of wish I had done that from the beginning, because now they're kicking me in the nuts and took 1,300 subscribers. I can't upload onto YouTube. I'm 6 podcasts behind. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, this totalitarian, this not. I like free speech. Like, I wouldn't even say I'm more into this free market idea, free market capitalism kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I'm not a full-blown, you know, I think communism and all that, too much socialism is bad. I like freedom, free speech, a bit of kind of that Yank sentiment, and I don't mean that in a bad way. We should all have access to our own, you know, if you have the rights to have a shotgun or something, you should go and get your gun license for sport, shooting clay pigeons or game shooting, whatever. Everyone now needs to be ultra, you know, like the Americans were back in the day, and people were kind of mocking them. This is the fight we're in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's very.
It's just how your life has become infinitely so micromanaged now. Like, you can't. There's a form. I mean, here's an example. Right, I was watching a bit of the old Clarkson's Farm thing with my missus last night, and I know obviously these things are produced and, you know, they're scripted, so to speak, and that, but the amount of red tape you've got to, like, he was moving some spoil from one part of his farm to another part of his farm, and there's a great big form you've got to fill out just for moving some of your own mud to another part of your farm, and it's how complicated life is now compared to even say 50 years ago. How is that? That's, to me, that's not progress.
We know they're going to pull the central bank digital currency and all that kind of shit out of blue on us, and they want to micromanage our lives down to the minute detail, and people don't see it, and maybe we're all just live our lives and we don't want to think about too much. But when they get the digital currency, they can program your money. So if there ever was a protest, maybe your money doesn't work 2 kilometers away from your house. This is the type of control. They know every cent you're spending, every cent you're buying. If you speak out online or something, then you can be penalised and they dock your money. And also at the same time, they're saying that there'll be less work and everyone should have a basic income and all this nonsense. None of it makes sense. Because at the same time, they're shipping lads across in little boats across the channel, and they're flying them into Dublin to beat the band. And none of it makes any rational sense. It just seems that our way of life is under complete and utter attack and destruction. And if people don't stand up, it's going to spiral out of control for us all.
There's another guy, Irish guy, Ron, Grand Torino. He got booted off YouTube. He's on D-Live now. But it used to be, during the lockdown and stuff, he maybe was doing 4 or 5, maybe 6 podcasts a week, building a great following. And he actually travelled up to Dublin Airport, and they called them, what was it, Jack? Horticultural experts?
Expert horticulturalists.
Yeah, horticulturists. The Irish people wanted to go.
Fruit pickers.
Fruit pickers. The Irish people applied for the jobs, they wouldn't give it to them, but they would fly these people in. And apparently they were living in like caravans with makeshift beds,
static homes and that, yeah.
You know, so that's the government was shitting on the Irish people then. You know, so what's happening now isn't a big. It's not a big surprise. It's the same in Britain. You have the Tories there. The Tories are slightly left or slightly right of Stalin. They're not conservative at all. Maybe
I'd say they're slightly left of Stalin, to be honest.
They're all the one though, aren't they, lads? Like there's no different. Like there's not. What are the conservatives conserving? Like this is all a farce. We need to be coming from the bottom. Like I'm not saying I like what Mark Collette and them are saying a patriotic alternative, but I don't know the politics on the ground in the UK. But like in Ireland, like you know, you've very few options. You can go with independent, or you can go with the National Party or the Irish Freedom Party. I like both. The National Party is a bit hardline. Like they believe in the death penalty and that. And for me, it's something like, you know, some people actually go, oh my God, the death penalty. But sometimes, you know, I can go either way on it sometimes. You know, it's not just that simple of a question. You know, it's something to be thought about. And there's a different approach. But you need something completely out of the way. We need, like, this is radical change. We need to go. They need to fucking go, but whatever way, like peacefully and politically. And, you know, grassroots.
I've watched both of them, and as you say, one stands for the death penalty. Now, personally, in my personal opinion, YouTube, or Suzar as we like to call it, I have no problem with the death penalty, especially with some of the heinous crimes you've seen inflicted on the people of Britain over the last 40 years. Documentary.
What, like the say like the people who murdered Lee Rigby, Emily Jones, Chris Donald, those sort of people.
Yes, you know, a life for a life, I believe in. So that's not the opinion of my channel. That's just my personal opinion. You have to skate around these things, Gavin. You know.
Well, no, look, I'm like that. That would be, there's different issues, but then maybe there's an economic issue as well. Like if one party is leaning more towards full-blown National Socialism, or one party is more free market. Like there's something there to be dug into. I'm not speaking for either party. I'm just saying there's more to the question than just whether, like, both are pro-life, both are, traditional, Irish first, all that kind of stuff. But then is there the financial or do you know what I mean? Like, are you full-blown socialist, or are you more of a free market person? And, I'm not saying capitalism has its flaws, but I think it needs to be capped somehow. But I think capitalism and freedom and that is the way forward. But your freedom shouldn't encroach on my freedom or my children's freedom. Or do you know what I mean? It should be some kind of... Look, I'm a Christian, so I think it should be grounded in sense. And fucking
is capitalism the best of a bad bunch of ideologies, Gavin?
I think so, but not uncapped. You can't have it with... Look, we all know about the Black Rocks and the Vanguards, and if there was more
the war machines,
yeah, and then people will put labels on who runs them, and they'll go into that rabbit hole, and maybe there's merit, maybe there isn't, and you know what I mean. So this whole thing, as a capitalist thing, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I think this whole liberal order, I see the BRICS, and I see the American empire teetering on the edge, and I see the rise of the BRICS and the multipolar world. I'm looking at multiple things. I don't know who's going to come out on top. I hope we don't all get nuked with this nonsense that's going on in Ukraine. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's a lot of stuff going on there.
Have you seen the report on Putin's new weapon? The radioactive tidal wave that came out.
Yeah, he included Ireland to be washed over. But sure, that's our government's fault. We're meant to be a neutral country. And Russia put us on the naughty list because they have tied ourselves to the empire. And our Irish neutrality has been shit all over. And that's another big gripe of mine.
Yeah, Gavin,
I didn't even think of it.
You can get him on your channel. He's brilliant. Is our mate, the Angry Bitneck, Matt. If you can get him on your channel, just watch some of his shows. He talks about real great points, and he does touch on politics, but he makes it literally funny, even though it's not funny. Some of the stuff that's been talked about. That boy that was let into the country there, who had already. He'd been sentenced to 20 years for murdering two people.
The Serbian.
Serbian. No, he wasn't. Yeah. He was Afghan, but he killed 2 Serbians.
I got one.
Then he killed an aspiring Marine outside of.
That's it. Yeah. That's the one.
And he's now serving life in Britain. So the British taxpayers now paying for that scumbag to be in prison. You know, you couldn't make this shit up. There's other ways of dealing with people like that.
I just want to come in and say that as well, just to be clear, because I am an Irish nationalist. Like, of course, I'd love to see United Ireland, right? But I don't see it as the be all and end all, and I don't see as to why. Like, what I would hate to see is Sinn Féin get in next time, and they will. This is their whole shtick to cause trouble up there. And what's going to happen? We'll be back to the old days, the feckin' violence and nonsense, and that's what they actually want to bring to the country. You know, come in roughshod there and disrespect people and piss people off and virtue signal over it while they flood our country with unvetted migrants from the third world and everywhere else. Absolutely fucking insane. And that's the problem.
I get from listening to how you talk in that, Gavin, that you must know about the Hegelian dialect, yeah? Problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Did you ever see Michael Tessarian's alternative history of the North and all that? I'm not saying I believe it all, but there's so much behind the scenes skullduggery. Do you know what I mean? And I think the Great Awakening is going on now. And I'm not saying I'm not dissing anybody, but there's a huge awakening I'm after having in the last 3 years, and I'm still learning and I'm still open to learning. I don't know, but you know what I mean? These controllers are working away a long time here, even in Ireland. I seen that the guys who had the Irish uprising, 1916 rising, the IRB, they had went to France and had studied Freemasonry and Illuminism and all this, came back. And I'm not dissing the IRB or what they achieved or anything like that, but there's always this extra layer of skullduggery or occultism or something behind a lot of these things, and that's something that I'm a Christian anyway, so this is, you know, that's my perspective. I come out at it. It's all Satan. If you want to put me in a box, I didn't know. But I do believe that there's a skullduggery behind a lot of things.
Were you ever a follower of Jordan Maxwell when he was alive?
I wouldn't say I was a follower of him. As I said to you earlier on, that on one side of my family were Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So they had a completely alternative view of the Bible and alternative view of mainstream Christianity, for right or wrong. And also, it's very, if you think of the what would you call them, the Amish, very like that, except they're not traditional, as in, you know, they're not using old technology, but it's very insular. It's very, you know, they keep with themselves, they associate together. And then if you go transgress, you're ostracized, you're put out, what do you call it, disfellowship. But for right or wrong of it, I left before I was ever christened into it or anything like that. I left at 13 or 14. But they are very Bible-based, and you get a lot of that kind of background from it, Christian traditional outlook and values, even though I'd walked away from it. When the world started to go wrong, I started to realize, Jenny, there's a lot of method to that madness. And the more I look at these elites with the Balenciaga and all these different things, I realize that, you know, these people, what I was taught growing up could potentially be true, that Satan, as it says in the Bible, is the king of this world at the moment. He offered it to Jesus on the mountain, you know, bow down to me, I'll give you the world. And that rings true when you see Balenciaga. Balenciaga means Baal is Lord. And I couldn't believe it. There was a Netflix clip with a witch been burnt at the stake and she's screaming out, Balenciaga. And no one ever knew until the big saga. And you see it with Sam Smith and the whole lot. Look, this isn't anything new. Marina Abramovich, you know, Jeffrey Epstein. These people worship Satan. And the average Joe thinks they're clever. Oh, that's all bullshit or this, that, and the other. No, they're clever. They're the elites of the world. They're literally worshiping Satan because they actually get the perks, the Faustian bargain. They get they sold their souls at the crossroads. These ideologies are ringing true. I've done my research. I've read Manly P. Hall. I've read Albert Pike. I've read Leadbeater. This Secret Life in Freemasonry. I'm well researched, and you know, these egregores, these elite, these demons, these fucking, you know, djinn, whatever you want to call them, they exist. They do influence our lives. I've had Jerry Marzinski on, the psychologist, and you know, he says these things mimic your internal monologue, your internal voice dialogue. So it's not that you don't even realize you're being influenced. They're literally mimicking your own internal thought processes. And I know it's deep, but for Christians, like, it makes a lot of sense with the
Well,
evil that's
here's a
going on in
question
the
for you on
world.
the back of that, then, Gavin. Do you think these entities, call them what you will, are actually supernatural, or do you think they are manifested through the inherent evil of these people?
Well, I don't know. Obviously, I come from the Christian background, so I believe, if anyone reads the Book of Enoch or any of those, the book,
Well,
the Watchers,
the
or
one
whatever.
book they don't want you to read.
Yeah, because it gives you the story. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that ties into then what do you call them with the alien? What do you call it? Ancient alien theory. Your man, he's dead now, or whatever. That and another JQ. But he literally, he went into the Anunnaki and all of this kind of stuff. It's just a repackaged version of Enoch or whatever, and then we all have the giant myth, and we all, the Nephilim, all
You're
this
about
stuff.
Zachariah Sitchin.
Sitchin, exactly. Thank you very much. Exactly.
No, I'm quite read and learned on all that. That's why I wondered if you were into Jordan Maxwell, you see, because he was the kind of cohesion that brought all of those different teachings and learnings together for me and fed it to me in like a nice bite-sized chunk, you see.
Yeah,
but Manly P. Hall, for example, he's like, you've got to kind of switch off your reality to listen to that sort of stuff and try and let it in and flow over you.
What about Bill Cooper?
Meaning.
Bill Cooper, no?
Yeah, what behold a pale horse and all that, yeah?
Yeah, but you see, for me, I've always believed in Christ, and I've always believed, even though I walked away from my Christian faith at 13, I still believed in the principle. And I do believe that modern Christianity, be it Catholicism, Protestantism, any of these evangelicals and all these, I believe maybe that their interpretation of the text could be wrong. I believe there's two different versions of the Bible. There's the Masoretic text and there's the received text. And I think that they could be looking at a pro JQ version of the Bible. I think there's a lot to that with the certain modern translations of the Bible. I think the Father's name, Yahweh, has been purposely hidden. I think a lot of emphasis has been put more on the Savior, who is the messenger and all that. I have just, and I don't know if I'm open to more suggestion, but I think there's fundamental truth in the scripture of the Bible. But I do think that there's been messing with the different, translations and trying to, make it more. They took God's name out of the Bible 7,000 times in the Old Testament. Yahweh. They took it out 7,000 times intentionally. Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever. And that's a fact. People can look into it, but then you have to ask yourself why did they do that, and it is a rabbit hole.
Interesting. We should maybe have some theology online classes at some point in the future, Gavin. I love talking about all this sort of stuff.
I had Sven Longshanks and Clive on there during the week. Do you know Sven Longshanks?
Radio Albion.
Yeah, man. Me and him and yourself, we will have some good streams, because I'm not saying I'm not coming from an ideology perspective, but I've researched this alternative history and I am intrigued, and I love history. I always have, and but I do come from the Christian bias, so I have to own my bias. I'm always trying to fit everything in that if it fits in with the table of nations in Genesis, and if it matches up with where I'm coming from. But I do that's why I resonate to this stuff, because I think there's truth in it. But look, we all have our own opinions. We won't fall out if we don't agree, yourself.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I don't think we're all meant to agree. I can imagine how boring a planet would be if we all agreed about every single thing. The debate's healthy, but
you're talking about Sam Smith and all these ones, and this. It was that. What was the awards? Who danced about like a devil and red, prancing about in red.
Did you see the Irish lady pulling him to piss? Was that in New York or something? Should I call him a demon and a groomer and everything? Man, that's brilliant.
But there was a report years ago. Remember when Jeffrey committed suicide in the cell with a tissue paper around his neck?
Yeah, I remember that. It was tragic, wasn't it? Yeah.
The broken vertebrae in the back of his neck.
Yeah, that particular bone that only gets broken when you get strangled to death. Yeah. Somehow he managed. Yeah, I don't know how he managed to do that with a noose made out of tissue papers.
Apparently,
always baffled me, that one.
They took an aerial photograph of his island, and the mansion on the island literally has an upside down cross on it, and apparently it has a satanic chapel.
Well, all of that symbology, and you'll probably know this might be more fresh in your head than mine, Gavin. That weird little temple we had, the blue and white thing with the gold doors and stuff. That's something very symbolic of.
Which was that? Travis Scott, is it?
What's that? Sorry, mate.
Did you say Travis Scott's stage? Was it? Or sorry, what?
No, on Epstein's fuck island, that Clinton only went to about 30 odd times.
Oh yeah.
You know, he had that weird building in the middle, and it was painted blue and white, and it had his initials in the door and all that. Now that's something symbolic. It's not in the forefront of my memory at the moment. I've just wondered if you knew off the top of your head.
Robert Seffer done a video on it, and
he's
I can't
brilliant,
remember
by the way. The most feared anthropologist.
Yeah, 100%. And that building is actually a replica of a temple in Syria. And
that's what I was getting at, yeah.
And then when you go down the rabbit holes, like people are now, not saying I believe the rabbit holes, but when you go down the rabbit holes, like people are, the Ellen DeGeneres set for a long time.
It was part of her set, wasn't it? Look, yeah.
And even Mary Teresa's yoke she had over her head was white and blue. People go really into all sorts of dark places with the white and blue check symbology. But
I suppose if you're going to be really sort of nitpicky, there's the Virgin Mary as well, isn't it? So it's you can take what you want from it, I guess.
Yeah, but see, this you can't discount it then, because that's a new one actually that I didn't think about. So if you go with that, the Virgin Mary, I think people like you said, Jordan Maxwell and all that. I believe there's fundamental truth within the scripture. I think you have to go and read it yourself. I think then, you have to look at loads of different things and kind of make your own mind up. I don't think, jump on this bandwagon, jump on Jordan Maxwell, jump on fucking Michael Tessarian, jump on Thomas Sheridan and all that. As a Christian, for me, I'm trying to figure out what the hell works. What's very intriguing for me is that the Irish history and the Irish annals kind of corroborate the Bible. The Book of Leinster, the Book of Invasions, the Book of Formations. Like, I'm not saying, some people say the monks came in and they rewrote them, but supposedly they rewrote them for previous annals. But if it's true, you say Catholic monks came in and rewrote our history, why didn't they back up Catholic theology? They didn't. It's all been hidden. You don't get taught this in Irish schools. You don't get taught about the Book of Invasions, the Book of Leinster, the Book of Formations, all these Irish annals. They don't tell you about, the Hill of Tara and all that, Tea Tepe or Scotia, or they don't tell you about the Iona Institute in Scotland, where there was a big cull there of monks and all sorts of things that's left out. And I think I don't believe in religion is what I'm saying. I think that people now in the age of information, need to figure out what the truth is. And most scholars do agree that Jesus lived. They don't agree that he was the Son of God or whatever, but they believe that the man Jesus lived. I think that is accepted.
I think there's enough evidence for that. I would definitely say there's enough evidence for that. For Jesus of Nazareth existing, whether or not he was born to a virgin mother, that's for a different day. But the man definitely existed, and I think he was the first rebel of Judaism.
Right. Well, just on this one, right? In Ireland, we've got Beltana. Beltana, right? That supposedly comes from Baal, and this is the Baal of Balenciaga, or the Baal of the Bible, or the Baal of the Canaanites or the Phoenicians, that goes back over that direction. So we've got Baal or Beltana, which is exactly that. And people say, it's not bullshit. People can look into it. So we've got some weird connection to this biblical story. And I'm not saying, I'm not going to start LARPing that we're LARPing as Jews or any of that, whatever. But I can tell you there's something, there's a lot of fucking hidden shit. And I think, the people who are saying, like the Bible says, those who say they are Jews and are not, but do lie, the synagogue of whatever Satan, and that's, you have to wonder, like, what the fuck is going on?
Well, I think a lot of people, especially here in Ireland, North and South, when the story came out about, was it the Mandarin laundries?
Magdalene
laundries, sorry, my bad, guys. That has to put a lot of people off Christianity, has to put a lot of people off religion. But when we're talking about these people now that are coming into the cities and they're going, refugees welcome here, they're all educated, university, basically Marxists. They don't care. I came past the hospital there where they're actually striking and they're striking for more money. Fair enough. But they have a gay pride flag and a big banner with Black Lives Matter, and another banner where it says God does not own my womb. And she was like this, like 30-stone heifer. You know, you wouldn't have thrown your worst enemy's wine into. You know, and that's what's being pumped into. You know, it's in hospitals.
Oh, that's what our friend Matty the Bootneck says. Their heads are full of cow shit.
Mm-hmm.
Their heads are full of fresh air. You know, and until they can't feed their children and their Netflix account won't work anymore, there's not going to be any uprising or pushback to it. You know, until people are made uncomfortable. You know, while bins didn't get collected for 6 weeks over in the summer, you know, right in the midst of the summer, stinking and that, nothing. No one said a word. They just accepted it. Yeah. Right? It's not gonna. It's gonna take until you can't feed your kids, or you're hungry.
Do you ever notice how things quickly turn around? Remember a couple of years back, we were all standing out on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. We're banging pots. The next minute, we were being fed videos of them on TikTok, dancing information. You know, jazz hands.
I remember you telling me you were doing a lot of the choreography for that.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, in the wheelchair, boogie. Yeah. And you're thinking to yourself, your brain's going, hold on here. There's this thing here that's killing everybody apparently. Mm-hmm. But you are so busy, and they're showing you pictures of nurses with their faces and all because the masks that tight on them and stuff, and they're all fatigued. And they're all. She wasn't fucking fatigued when she was dancing to fucking Starry fucking Nights or whatever, or some rave shit. And then we get ones from the Republic. The fucking Garda out fucking jazz hands in it and all. But the whole country was locked down.
And the only people who completely disregarded the lockdown measures were the people who implemented in the first place, because they knew there was nothing to worry about.
Well, I listened to at the start was Professor Dolores Cahill, and they shut her down quickly.
They shut. Is it Robert Malone? That Jay Bhattacharya, I think his name was. Anyone, you know, Stanford and Harvard doctors were put on Trend's blacklist. We know that now from the release of the Twitter files.
Can I come in on that, lads? Right?
Yeah, please do, Gav.
Everyone can go on Dr. John Campbell, right? He's on here on YouTube and he's on Rumble. Some of his videos can't be put up, but he has a couple of ones there over about unnecessary deaths. And it's well worth watching because it's something that a lot of people were beating the drum out from the beginning around Matt Hancock and different things like that. So you can go on John Campbell's YouTube and watch it. And it's basically unnecessary death, and also there's one about Florida up on his YouTube. You can go and watch. And lads, everything that we've been said, you know, has been vindicated over the last 3 years. The scale of the travesty that's after occurring, it's very hard to comprehend, and we don't know what the ramifications of it is. I see what you said about McCullough. 15% of people who partook could be potentially damaged, maybe unawares. 3% or 4% or something could be seriously, or the heart or something. Like, there's a lot of really scary numbers there, but yet our establishment are covering their arse. Like, there's a huge...
2 years ago, you couldn't mention any of what you've just said. You'd be gone.
Well, I tried not to be too specific. Maybe I was, but
no. But what I'm saying is that's how the narrative has escaped them in that regards.
There was,
because there is hard data now. There is hard, irrefutable data.
Yeah, I'm just directing people to John Campbell's stuff. I'm not making any inferences.
But I wanted to mention about John Campbell to you because I think he's had a very, very interesting story arc, as I'm sure you'll agree, because he was pro-vaccine, pro-Fauci, everything the British, everything that the government were pushing, and then he decided to, and he's got these posters behind him now, follow the evidence, wherever it may lead, right? Before he had the little syringe thing and that, but that's all gone now, right?
Yeah,
he's had a very interesting story arc.
I I don't want to look. Everyone will have to die on their own bed, and for what they did or didn't do, or what they encouraged or didn't encourage. He seems to have come, done the full 360, and I
that's
applaud
why
anybody.
I can respect a man who can change his mind when he had such a stance on it before. I've got respect for that.
Lads, we were watching it from, like, some of us were watching it from the beginning. Like, I was worrying, I was shit myself looking at YouTube and what was going on in, over in the fucking, what would you call it, the red country. And I was worrying about it, and people didn't want to listen. And then when it came over, I was like, wow, that's not, what I perceived it was going to materialize as. So I quickly turned on it. Like the John Campbell, he's very educated, and that it's so sad to see. And look, I'm not picking on him. My mother took it, my sister took it, it's gutting. And hopefully everyone will be all right. We're not here, dooming and glooming, but we just don't know what's going on with that. And it's not for any good intention. That's what my position on it. And I could see the harms. But these fuckers are 3 years too late. That's my problem. They're 3 years too late. We've been, not saying me, but like a lot of us have been on this for the last 3 years, lad. And everything that we've said 3 years ago, we were called tinfoil hatters, is now fact. And it's really gutting. And you see John O'Looney. I had John O'Looney on. I had
yes, that was another great guest you had on. Sorry to mention that. Yeah,
John O'Looney, and we had John McGee. He just came out of the blue. He was a whistleblower. He's an embalmer in the Midlands in Ireland. And if you look on, Offgridireland podcast, you'll find John McGee, and he'll tell you they're looking at an excess mortality at the moment. He says people are coming in with the paddle marks on their chest, young people, and these marks are burnt into their chest from trying to start their heart. He said he's doing 18-hour days. There's only four embalmers in the region. And, so this is happening. The excess deaths, there's 39 to 40% excess deaths in Germany. There was 2,000 or 5,000. I don't know what it is, but it's a crazy number. Like, the good people have to wake up and rise up, and just, there needs to be a change of the guards, lads. This is very serious on many different fronts, and that's why people need to start connecting the dots between what they're doing in schools. Yeah, Clive on there from Scotland, he told us all about the grooming and the carry on of what they're doing. Parental rights are gone in Scotland. They start transitioning your child behind your back at 5 years of age. That's beginning to happen in Ireland. You connect that dot then between the COVID, you connect that dot between the climate nonsense, you connect that, there's a series of dots that everybody has to connect and realise that the old order are profoundly corrupt. They've been coup d'etatted, they've been usurped, they're not in our interest anymore. The good nationalist people need to rise up, and then we can all figure out, whether we're going to have a united Ireland or we're going to have a whatever. That's a secondary issue for me at the moment. And that goes across to America, Australia, everywhere, lads. This is, the common man against it's a class war. Is that nearly what it is? It's nearly it's some kind of class war now that's happening.
Haves and the have-nots, right? Always has been. All right, so you were telling me earlier, just before we jumped onto the stream, Gavin, that it was the pandemic thing that really woke you up. Right?
Actually, hold on there, but I don't want to say it's not a class war. Just stand up, because that's a bit Marxist. It's not actually a class war. It's the ruling. It's a very small handful of people in the government. Yeah, but it's a ruling class, minute ruling class. Not about people with money. People with money are not the problem. It's those parasites in government.
I'd call them the predatory class.
There's Boris Johnson. What do you call her? Got in after him. Liz Truss. Liz Truss was only Prime Minister for, 8 weeks?
About the same length as a head of cabbage took to go off.
Something like that. And she is entitled to £175,000 a year of a pension for a job that she only done for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, Bertie Ahern wants to come back into Irish politics, and he was up with the Mahon Tribunal or whatever, all that shit he was involved with, profoundly. I don't want to be done for defamation, right? But, question marks left, right, and centre. He was revealed to be deceptive. He said he didn't have a bank account, and now they want to bring him back.
That's it. They're 155k a year she gets. Boris gets the same. Yet he's
nice work if you can get it, right, Ragz?
Now he's in trouble because he was borrowing 800,000. He was on 100 grand plus expenses. 124 grand plus expenses for being
no, but lads, what about Rishi Sunak? I had this question, right? I didn't know much about Rishi Sunak, right? When I do start looking into Rishi Sunak, I realize the man's worth 300, 400 million. He is uber rich. What does he want that job for? Why does a man with that amount of wealth? That's a hard job. That's a long-hour day job. It's a power hungry. It's a something beyond wealth. That guy wants for nothing. Why would you put yourself in for that? Yeah, this is some kind of narcissistic, power hungry freak.
You said it. You didn't need us to answer it. That's all it is. It's something money can't buy.
Gavin, his wife has more money than the Queen. When he was Chancellor of the Exchequer, he had a green card for America in his back pocket for when the shit hit the fan. He was gone. Like his parents did when they left India for, where was it? Sri Lanka. Then they moved from Sri Lanka to Britain.
Well, hold on. Let's not forget about Thelema Investments. He's got 500 million invested in Moderna. And do you know what Thelema? Thelema to me sounds very something like Aleister Crowley had wrote in one of his writings. Or if it's not Aleister Crowley, it's fucking your man L. Ron Hubbard or someone. But Thelema, I'm not drawing any, lines between them, but this Thelema thing, for some reason, it's reeking of Aleister Crowley. But supposedly they invested 500 million in Moderna, and Rishi Sunak is directly in profiting from these mRNA jobs. How can we get justice when that stooge is fucking head of one of the most, powerful nations in the earth? What fucking hell, lads, we're in trouble.
The BBC was interviewing Rishi Sunak, was it 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they just had him right below the belt about his wife's connections with Russian oligarchs and the money she had invested in Russian companies. And now they're funding. There's the husband. He's sending arms to Ukraine. Anyway, YouTube, you can look this up. It's actual fact. Just making that as a disclaimer. You couldn't make this shit up. It's unbelievable. We're both. How's he gone? Oh, he's back.
I was back. I was just getting a drink.
Right.
But imagine though that like his investment company is called Thelema Investments, and they put 500 million into Moderna or whatever, and Rishi Sunak is profiting from that. And anyone can Google Thelema and Aleister Crowley, and you will find that it's a book or something that he wrote, or if the spelling it's very, very, very similar. You are dealing with pure evil here at the upper echelons. Most people underneath are just being Pied Pipered, I think, underneath these snakes that are at the top. But that's just my opinion.
Hey, there's one. Sunset must be one of your followers. Did you see the worst photograph of was him and Zelensky with the fighter pilot helmets on? They look like fucking Bill and Ben, the flower pot man, or like we 6-year-old kids wearing their dad's motorcycle helmet this side,
Is it just a sign of the times, or has it always been a thing that leaders of countries at war can go and do photo shoots of Vanity Fair and stuff like that? Because I don't remember.
Well, just look at Zelensky's wife's chest area over the last year.
Has it grown a bit? Has it?
It went from 2 Fridays.
I don't think he's into women anyway. I think it's one of those Michael Barrymore, Elton John kind of setups he's got with her.
But lads, he got voted in on a platform of peace with Russia, recroachment with Russia. He literally lied to all the people who voted for him. He literally ran on a platform of peace and of recroachment with Russia. And because of his profile as an actor, he had that profile. He was pushed by Newland and pushed by the deep state of the United States. He's a puppet, and he's Jewish, and he's connected to Chabad Ludwig. And so is Putin, by the way, which is weird. Putin's also connected to Chabad Ludwig. But look, I don't know, but there's a lot of weird shit going on.
Yes, the whole Ukraine thing to me is and Ragz will back me up on this. I've said from the offset. First of all, Russia were provoked into invading. Vladimir Putin didn't wake up on the 24th of February 2022 and go, oh, fuck it, I'm going to go into Ukraine today, right? He's provoked it. It's a long term coming. The Minsk Accord, which was set up after the American coup in Ukraine, the Maidan coup, and then you've got the Victoria Nuland tapes of them essentially just putting together the new government, which Zelensky is going to be the puppet head of. And in the Minsk Accord, Ukraine were going to stop bombing the Donbass, which was ethnically Russian, and they didn't. And since 2014, up until the invasion, I think it was something like 14,000 people had already been killed from shelling with inside Ukraine into other parts of Ukraine, but ethnically Russian. So it wasn't like they didn't see it coming. The point I was making there was, I think it's a fossil fuel war. It's an energy war. We can go into the Nord Stream 2 pipeline sabotaged by the American deep state as well. That's all part of the ploy, and it's America wanting the 40% market share that Russia have of liquefied natural gas into Europe. That's my hot take on it. Anyway,
can I give a different perspective on it, right? And it's just purely speculative, right? And I've been following it, and I thought Russia would have won the whole war in the first couple of weeks, and then they had to turn around and all of that. And I was kind of like, I respect Putin that he's been so measured, and that I would have probably nuked Ukraine if I was Putin. With my silly impulses, because he's just obviously a very shrewd operator. I would have probably lost the rag long ago. But what he's actually done is he's winning. He's grinding them to absolute bits. They've lost 180,000 people. Russia has lost staggering losses as well, in my opinion. There's no winners here. This is horrible what's going on. So I'll just state that I'm Irish. I'm a neutral. I don't, you know what I mean? I empathize with Russia.
It's another brother war.
But I just want to say this, lads, right? What's actually happening there, if you have rabid nationalists in the Ukraine, which, they were real nationalists. They were, what would you say?
Azov.
Look, you see them all, the Azov, you see them, right sector and all of these ones, right? And different, the insignias and all that. They're all probably dead now. Like, whatever's happening there now, there's a cleansing of ultra-nationalist Ukrainians. Now, I'm not talking about how many losses Russia have had, but you can imagine, and I can imagine, right sector, Azov, all of those different brigades are absolutely destroyed and decimated. So there's some kind of white genocide going on here. I'm not picking sides, but if you look at Putin fired his one of his security advisors because he had questioned Chabad in Ukraine. He said that they were a cult or the supremacist cult or whatever else, and he was fired from his post. This is verifiable. Anyone can go and look at this right now on the internet. And also at the same time, Zelensky has had involvement with Chabad at his wedding and different things. So if I stand back and I look at it and I'm wondering what the fuck is going on, who benefits? I don't think Russia benefits a whole lot with their men dying. But at the same time, I see that rabid nationalist, element are completely been probably decimated in Ukraine. So I think, what would you call it? The deep state or CIA, the MI5 or MI6, whatever, have been cultivating that nationalist element probably since World War II. And now they've just been thrown into the Russian artillery and their flamethrowers, that they call it, with their, they ever see the jokes in there, choo, 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 choo. Russians are holding back the whole of NATO by themselves. And I'm not bigging up Russia, but me, fair fucks to them, what they're after doing. Ukraine are firing 6,000 pieces of artillery a day. They can't keep up with production. Russia, I'm not trying to big Russia up, but they're holding themselves, aren't they? Really? I
heard some I think it was a taxi driver said to me the other week. He said, "This is where America are testing all their new weaponry for when they fight China." I guess goes well. That's one way to look at it, I guess.
There's reports there. Now, I'm not too sure if there's any actual truth in it, but there was a couple of, I think.
They've pre-programmed us for the war with China as well. Yeah. That's all being drip-fed propaganda-wise. I mean, it started long before, but these balloons as well,
Big distraction. But think about Ukraine, that the fact of all those Azov, those real hardcore. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying I agree with them or empathize with them. But there was hundreds of thousands of those skinhead, hardcore, Aryan, Hitler-loving kind of nationalists, and they were brave. I'm not picking on them or anything. They're, you know what I mean? They're probably good guys. They love their country. They've all been killed. Like, so there's this element to what's going on. Like, people are wondering, is Putin in with the West? Is it all a big psyop or whatever? But there is some kind of psyop or something going on. Do you not think? Like, and who benefits from it?
It's a brother war, isn't it? We say all the time, no more brother wars, and it's exactly what it is. But I said this last week. I don't think the American people are our enemy, but the global American empire, the gay, are certainly an enemy of the West, of Europe.
No, but the Republican Party are full of the rhinos. Republicans in name only. You know, they couldn't agree on the colour of shade. It's the same as our Conservative Party. Name me 10. Better still, name me 5 true Conservatives in the Conservative Party.
Rees-Mogg.
1.
I'm stuck now. No, I can't off the top of my head. No, I can't think.
Lee Anderson.
Lee Anderson, yeah, but what do they say he is? Just because he sounds northern, they say he's a moron, an idiot, don't they? And Booty goes on about that. You won't be taken seriously if you sound like you're from a pit estate up in the northeast.
So we managed 2 out of 5.
Out of well, 2 out of the 5 you set me, but 2 out of how many in total?
Resisting the ladies, then, even a DJ.
Hello, mate.
It's YouTube royalty in the chat. Like, with 42 resisting the ladies, we have angry bit.
I saw Rotten Politics in there as well earlier.
Politics, we have England for the English, you know. Woodlander was in. So, but right, gentlemen, where are we going next?
Right, so yeah, I want to ask Gavin here. So, what's you're 36 years old. You've got 4 kids. So you, like me and Ragz here, you're a father. So you have an investment into the future, right? Where do you take your personal fight next?
Well, for myself, like, I'm trying to just do what I'm doing. Like, I'm trying to reach more people, because down here in the south, as I said earlier, the media and the whole control system is predicated on in the culture and on the, like, I watch a lot of Steve Bannon. Like, there's a cultural war, you know, a spiritual war, an economic war, and you have to be, and I don't mean this isn't violence, it's about in the culture. We're doing the podcast and that we're trying to, like, reaching out to yourselves, and we can all, you know, fucking express ourselves and stick out the olive branch and talk. But then bringing different people on, but I'm trying to get Irish people exposed to alternative ideas and opinions, because they're been led and said by a corrupt, bought and sold media. So that's basically my mission at the moment. At the same time, I want people to, this is the fight of our life. This is the fight of our life. And people need to just get involved on a grassroots level. If you're in the south, you've got Derek Bly on the ground, hook up with him, follow him if you're in that region. You know, Herman Kelly's a really good fucking dude. You know, even what they call him, Herman Kelly, Justin Barrett, anyone, whoever, you know, get involved at the area on a grassroots level, and you start knocking on doors, handing out flyers, chatting to your neighbour, chatting to the lad in the barbers, chatting to the lad behind the bar, and being very, you know, have your approach thought through. You don't just jump in attacking people. You're thinking your approach through. You're trying to win hearts and minds. People need to start connecting dots between this and the green agenda, connecting the immigration, you know, to what's going on in the schools with the grooming, you know. And when the penny drops, we'll come to a better place. People, the good people take control. The Patriots take over is what I said.
Yeah, the PA talking to Big Sam and stuff. They were talking, what do you call it? One in Scotland. Who's the head guy in Scotland?
Kenny. Oh, Chief Moody? Kenny?
No, not
Claire?
It's Kenny, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
He's on TikTok now. I give him the idea.
Yeah, Kenny Smith.
I post all the PA stuff on TikTok, and it seems to stick there. You see, when you put it up on YouTube, it doesn't get any views at all. because you're always, even though YouTube say they don't shadow ban anybody, they do. Yeah, I've been going at this here for over a year now, and I'm still stuck on how many viewers, how many subs, 779 now. I'm up to.
Hey.
So, but I get more shares and likes and comments and stuff, and they're all positive, most of them. I would say 99.9% positive comments on videos that I share on there. And it's just the PA ones that you can get off PA on Telegram. You literally have 200,000 views, but 200,000 views isn't a big lot on TikTok, because you have people on there, with dancing dogs getting 2 million views. But it's still another avenue to look into, So where are we going next, gentlemen? I have. Oh
yeah, here we go. Yeah. So, what do you think? We were talking briefly before we went live, Gavin, about the grassroots, very organic protests that have started down south in regards to just dumping, say, 100 men into a tiny village and stuff. Now, there seemed to have been some sort of, I think the news was quite hazy, but some sort of far left attack on protesters that happened over this weekend. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, and in East Wall there, what was it, Wednesday or Thursday night, a guy drove his Jeep on live stream through some peaceful protesters. Now, it wasn't like something that happened by the Muslim extremists now, right? Driving a lorry through a crowd of people.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a truck of peace. It wasn't a truck of peace. No.
He shunted the guy and kind of knocked him over. So I'll just say it in that. But it was a far left, and it was he is radicalized by the far left and by the People Before Profit and these other organizations. And then he turned up at the NGO protest there on Saturday. And so the difference between him, there was Graham Kerry. Graham Kerry was arrested for things he said on social media. Now, to be fair, when you listen to the videos that Graham Kerry put out, they were a bit, he probably he should have been more measured in what he was saying. In my opinion, he gave them ammunition that he didn't need to give them. But the difference between him and this other dude is the fact that the other dude is allowed to go to protest where Graham Kerry could potentially get prison, and he's not allowed to go to any protest. This other dude runs over a protester or knocks one over, shunted them. He didn't run one over, but he shunted him with his vehicle and knocked him to the ground. And he's allowed to attend protests, his own leftist protests. But yeah, so this is the fucking, this is the difference in what's going on. But
this is the hypocrisy.
That's where we're at. Like that is where we're at.
So like we over in England, they've had the Just for Oil protests and stuff like that. Do you think there's a possibility that these movements may be government-backed and astroturfed, so as they have legitimate reasons to shut down other people protesting for different reasons?
I don't know. The Just for Oil, it's phony. Like the whole green agenda thing is phony. Even if there was scarcity with these, what they like to call fossil fuels or, hydrocarbons, whatever, they it's all based on lies, because we could actually replace the energy with nuclear. We could actually replace the energy with different things, and they don't do it. So the whole energy scarcity thing is predicated on lowering the standard of living in the West. It's an attack on the West. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's dirtier to dig lithium. It's dirty. The batteries and the electric cars cannot replace the petrol cars. And the European Union is after saying that they're phasing out petrol and diesel cars by 2035. It's all nonsense. What this is they want to make a techno-feudalism, or a neo-feudal technocracy, some people said, which they want to have the ultra-elite wealthy people, and they want to have the ultra-elite corporations, no small businesses. And that's the type of, and they want you with a headset on you, a VR headset, a wife beater vest, stoned out your head on legal cannabis, and probably smoking legal crack, pulling the fucking belly out of yourself in a what do you call it, a pod somewhere. That's the vision of the future they have, eating bugs if we don't if we don't rise up. That's where we're at.
Well, Woodlander makes a great point there. I don't know if you can see it, gentlemen. If we didn't import millions of people, the West would be fine with resources. We would have plenty to go around. But when you keep on inviting people or importing, I tagged you in a thing on Twitter the day. This new immigration ministry, he wants to bring in millions. And I replied to him. I said, "Well, why do you think we actually voted for Brexit? Because we don't fucking want these people here. This is our homeland. You can guarantee I'll not get a reply from them. You will eat the bugs. Also, eats the bugs. Living in a pod. It's like a sci-fi movie. What do you call that movie with your man? Fifth Element. And they're all living in like 1,000-story buildings. Mm-hmm. And the wee Chinese guy in his freaking floating boat comes across and feeds you your dinner at night. Open the window. And you live in a pod. And this is what they see for the rest of us. They'll not see it for them. Apparently, there was a tweet today, and everybody that went to Davos had their main course and their meal for one evening per person was £1,500.
Oh, that sounds quite conservative to me.
1,500 quid, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't eat 1,500 quid's worth of stuff in 2 years. I just eat basics, potatoes and a wee bit of meat, a bit of chicken and stuff, and I don't think my food bill would come to.
Well, trying to find children to serve on a menu can get quite expensive, Ragz.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Well, let's have a little bit of fun with 8 minutes left. Gavin, the next, I mentioned something last week, like, you've had like COVID, jabs, Ukraine, climate crisis. They play with the public with these psyops, and it's like when you got a cat with a laser toy, right? It's like over here, no, look over here and over here. It seems like UFOs and spy balloons are the next big thing. I'm surprised people haven't got little UFOs in their bios on Twitter. They may already have, I don't know. But where do you think where do you think this particular psyop is headed?
It's a deep question. I don't want to go too deep into it because there's conspiracies going back about Project Bluebeam, going back a very long time, where they might put projections in the sky and holograms and try and fake people into an alien invasion and think that and then try and create a one world government and a one world system. You also had Ronald Reagan or whatever in the UN.
Reagan. I believe humanity could come together if there was an existential threat from an alien force. Yep.
But then also you have Joe Rogan. Every third podcast talk about aliens. You have Lex Friedman. Every third podcast talk about aliens. You have that Doran fella or whatever. This is something cooking up in the periphery of our subculture that they're and also there's been huge disclosures with the Pentagon and a few of them in the last few years where they come out and said, I believe they're putting them forward. Lou Elizondo and all these people. He's CIA.
One of the fucking drummers from Blink 182. Isn't there one of the guys from Blink 182 now some sort of alien expert as well? Am I right? I'm sure that I heard something like that.
Look, this is something that's on the back burner. There's some kind of psyop going on. Now I don't know if the balloons and all that buy into.
It's weird how balloons again, because if you go back to Roswell, 1947. That's what they said that was a weather balloon. Mm-hmm. So there's a weird tie-in with that too,
But it turned out, gentlemen, that there was these hobby clubs that put
amateur meteorologists. I mean,
but the flat earthers say that satellites don't exist and they're all on balloons, and they say that NASA uses so much helium that if you actually look at the quantity of helium No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying, like, it was hilarious to see the memes when these balloons came down, and people like, oh, I told you, there's no such thing as space. No, I'm not a flat earther, but it's fucking hilarious.
No, I'm not a flat earther, and that's why I don't believe for a second the Chinese would be. In fact, if I was China, I'd be quite annoyed about how America think that your technology is so behind. You've got to try and get your intelligence via a fucking hot air balloon. Do you know what I mean? When you've got these satellites that can read a fucking number plate from God knows how many thousand miles up, I'd feel like, hang on a minute, we're not that far behind you. But did you see that someone had put up a balloon, great big balloon up in the sky that someone had put on the US, blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline? Did any of you guys see that?
But that was the cover-up. They covered up the Ohio and they covered up the Nord Stream disclosure.
I'm glad you mentioned Ohio, actually. I forgot about that. What do you think's going on there, then? What's your hot take on that, Gavin?
Well, look, at the end of the day, it's Amish territory, it's Mennonite territory, it's the green heartland of the USA. And then at the same time that the Netflix show within the exact same chemical spill in the exact same area on a Netflix show, there's something fucking doesn't sit right with me. And putting people back in there too quick is the recipe for disaster. I've seen on the the High Wire, the Del Bigtree, he done an episode the other night. Basically, these people moving back there need to be changing the filters in their, they have to filter in their house. A lot of people have the air conditioning. But that filter should need to be changed every day going forward. And even the first time they move back to their house, that should be taken out, or you'll be recirculating God knows what poison. An awful lot of things that the cover up there, man, is concerning. It was not mainstream news in the US. They did not cover it in the US.
I saw a news thing earlier. It was via another thing on YouTube, and it was a guy, and he was just down at this like natural creek, just this river run, and he went, "Watch this!" And he got a stick and he stuck it into the silt and he dragged it, and then all this, like the rainbow color you get from oil and that. So it's already in the silt. It's not just sat in the water. It's already filtered through the water into the silt. And this is only like 48 hours after it happened. Yeah. But have you seen some of the actual footage of the trains going down the tracks in Ohio? And the tracks, this is something worse than a third world country. This is worse than when that guy opened the bridge and they all fell in. It's terrible. Do you know what I mean? Have you seen this? Have you seen the infrastructure?
Okay, Gavin makes a great point. Netflix done that movie last year. And people from the actual town were
extras in it.
There were extras in it.
I see this. Yeah.
Think back, gentlemen. Jude Law.
They literally ran a war game the year before. If that, like what you said there, that people from the same town were extras in that show, and then it happened like a year later. It's just like a dress rehearsal.
It's like Event 201, right?
Then there was Gwyneth Paltrow and Jude Law in a movie about 4 or 5 years ago, released on Netflix, about a bat that was eating something, that dropped it, and this piglet picked it up, and this farmer, this restaurateur goes out and buys piglets off this farmer. Next minute, she's flown back and she eats the pork. Next minute, there's a massive worldwide pandemic, and they're cutting her brain out, and her brain is literally water. It's mush, and a year later, what do we get?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was just saying. They run John Hopkins, Bill and Melinda Gates, and they run that Event 201 a year before the COVID outbreak, didn't they? And that was based on a swine flu, a swine couth.
No, gentlemen, we have a minute. Well, we don't have a minute left. We're at 8:30. I would just like to thank my guests for coming, and I'd like to get them back on again. Gavin,
it was great having you on, man. Great having you on.
Brilliant. Absolute star, educated and knows his stuff. If you want to go across to Telegram, you will find Gavin on Offgridireland. You just have to type it in. They usually have a wee voice chat in there some evenings during the week and stuff.
Do you want to plug anything, Gav?
No, well, basically, because I was only looking into it over the last few days. Offgridireland podcast, we got all the guests, because we had Rick Munn and Godfrey Bloom, and we had Mark, we had loads there, and sure, Look,
Yeah,
we're
no,
only raw,
no,
we're only
you've
amateurs,
got.
you'll find us there.
There's one thing I look for diversity in, and it's your podcast guests, and there's plenty of it.
Thanks, guys. And I really appreciate being invited on. I really enjoyed it. And I think people should think about some of the things we said, like, about the good people need to come together, and we need to, we can put aside, like, even the abortion. I might be anti-abortion, you could be pro-abortion or whatever. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me now is to stop this, mass invasion of unvetted lunatics from the Middle East and everywhere else, and also the grooming in the schools, and also this green agenda that's going to put us into serfdom, and our free speech. And there's very few, like, I'm not asking for much, and this censorship needs to stop. And the whole rollout of those interventions that are still hurting people. They've been rolled out to 6-month-old babies this week in Ireland. It's an absolute crime against humanity that we're living through. Very hard to take it in, but that is, the indicators are all there. What's happening here is very, very wrong. But anyway, that's all I want to say, lads. It's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot to be positive about, and people are rising up. But, we have to keep the eye on what's really happening.
Gav, will you come back on in a couple of months' time and fill us in with what you've been up to?
I will indeed, lads. I'll be on anytime. And for the other guy you were talking about, Godfrey, you reach out to PR. She's very good. She hooked him up. So, see if you can work that out between you. You know what I mean? We'll see. It's up to himself at the end of the day. We'll see if he'll be interested. And he might come on to you. He's a lovely man. And anyone listening to go and listen to our podcast, Offgridireland, chat to Godfrey Bloom. Brilliant.
Yes. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Gav. Really appreciate you coming on, dude. God bless you, mate. And we'll speak again soon, yeah?
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Now, gentlemen, we have another guest on next week. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. Horace will be on from
the Eye of Horus. Horus himself.
We're working on a couple of other guests, but we're keeping that on the quiet because we haven't arranged it yet. Some big names. But I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I'd like to ask you, please, if you can, smash that like button because it helps. I don't think we said anything tonight.
And go and give Ragz some coffee money so he can get that nitrous boost for his wheelchair.
Needs a new engine. There's need the lithium crystals in our captain. Need the lithium fucking crystals.
You just didn't have the power.
So, I'd like to get you on as a guest some night, mate. I would. He is very some great things.
If anyone still cares, anyone still listening, Elon Musk very kindly allowed my OG Twitter account back this week. I got the email that I met the new criteria. So it's at Jack London 1981, and you'll see a picture of Frank Drebin. Please, Naked Gun Guy. Give us a follow, and I'll be posting some as spicy as I can get content soon.
If I drop Jack's Twitter in my community, nobody looks at my community tabs for some reason, but there's some good stuff in there. So if you want to go along there and have a look, and we will see you next week. Hopefully, I'll get Melissa O'Neill on. I might have to get her on in the middle of the week because when she's not so busy.
When she's not on the campaign trail.
Not on the campaign trail, but we'll work something out. And good night, God bless, or in my case, Odin bless.